It's great to welcome in the head coach of Ole Miss, Lane Kiffin. Lane, thank you so much for being with us this morning. How you doing?
Awesome. Thanks for having me, guys.
Of course. Lane, a lot of success. You made the Sugar Bowl in just your second season with Ole Miss, but now you're bringing in 17 transfers to obviously fill some crucial holes. How do you expect this year's group to pick up where they left off?
Well, that's not easy. Anytime you bring in that many players that replace really good players, but really good team leaders and locker room guys, that's a lot for us to do. And I think that's a lot on coaching, because you didn't have these guys in your system for a couple of years, and they've come from different places where they've already kind of been raised differently. So this is very challenging. It may on paper look good that we signed all these guys that are supposed to be good players or have been at other places, but as you guys see in all sports, look no different than the NBA. You can put together good players on paper, and It doesn't work. So, especially in football.
Now, Coach, former quarterback at Ole Miss, Matt Corral, who's now with the Carolina Panthers, just recently came out and said some things that him going to Ole Miss, he decided he took the easy way out, and he wished he would have went somewhere else because it would have allowed him to compete. What are your reactions to statements like that from a quarterback that you actually coached?
Well, first off, I wasn't here when Matt got here. So as far as the competition initially, which he was in, I wasn't here. Matt immediately texted me after that to say that's not what he meant by it, and that, he actually was in a competition here. And so he's a rookie in the NFL. He's not going to say everything right, and he's not going to throw everything right, especially in his first year. So I'm sure he'd take that back. But, we're in the time where there's not much going on in the media. And so, like I told him, this will run for 48 hours. Nobody will even remember it.
Now, we've seen Jimbo Fisher and Nick Saban. You played for Nick Saban, you coached with Nick Saban. Jimbo Fisher also coached for him, was the first guy to actually beat him in a regular season game or period. Then we seen Kirby Smart during the national championship game. But those two guys got in a heated argument over NIL. And I know recently you said that when it comes to NIL, you felt like it should be capped. Why do you think the NIL deal should be capped for college players?
Well, I don't have the perfect plan for it. Just in answering the question, there should be some form of cap, because if you look at professional sports, which now we are in a professional sports, we have free agency for the players. They get paid to play. And so, without having long-term contracts. So my point of capping it was at least then there'd be a way to manage it. Remember, too, not only is there not a cap, we have collective groups, donors, at places paying players and picking the players to come supposedly without in communication with the coaches. So how would that system work in professional sports like the NFL? Everybody has a different cap, and the coaches and the general managers aren't picking and choosing how they divide that cap with the players. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. But from the beginning of this thing, if you understood and you looked at it, you could see these problems coming. I've said it. You basically have now legalized cheating. I said that, I think, the first week that, this came out. So we are where we are.
Legalized cheating. That's pretty strong, but it's not the only changes here, Lane. Yesterday, Kirk Ferentz said college football is in a really precarious place and needs one stabilizing voice. What are your thoughts on where the direction of college football is going right now, with all the conference realignment as well?
Well, it is a mess. A lot of these decisions obviously are made for money. And, I got asked last week a lot at the league meetings about, especially USC, UCLA moving and Texas, Oklahoma. It just doesn't seem right. I said Texas, Oklahoma, that doesn't feel right. And USC, UCLA going to the Big Ten doesn't feel right or sound right. Nothing about it. And especially when you look at scheduling, how that would work out and the travel and away from classes. I'm sure maybe something went into it more than money, but I don't know what could have possibly, besides money, went into making that decision and tearing those conferences apart like they are now.
Now, we recently seen big change in the Big Ten, USC and UCLA. They're going to be joining that conference coming up. But in saying that, those teams out west, going to those cold weather games in November, how do you think those kids, and not just the kids, the coaches, are going to be able to fare up in that weather, man?
Well, that is challenging. They're not used to it. We didn't have to play that many of them, but every once in a while you may have been up at Oregon or Oregon State, Washington State, and maybe have a game like that, but maybe one every couple years. So this will be totally different for them, and the challenge of traveling almost coast to coast for some of these games, and leaving 2 days early and missing more class, and so I guess it will be interesting is the most positive term I can come up with for this.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN Plus.